and welcome to The Sacred. My name is Elizabeth Oldfield, and this is a podcast about the deep values of a wide range of people who are shaping our common life. This is a special reflection episode where I don't have a guest with me, but I'm looking back and thinking about all the conversations we've had so far this year. And there are many things that linger with me. I think one of the themes is just how different people are. I've been doing this since 2017, and yet I still feel surprised at the incredible variety of human preferences and temperaments and interests. And I think that's normal. I think I'm not just uniquely narcissistic. I think that most of us come into the world with a very deep sense that we are the norm. We are so steeped in our particular context and our emotion and our experiences and our hobbies that, and I see this in children a lot, it is really hard to come to the understanding that, as Iris Murdoch says, something other than ourselves is real. You know, when I come across someone who, you know, Freya India talked about having a kind of conservative temperament, being very private and restrained. And, you know, you might agree or disagree with her about what a conservative temperament means, but that she had a draw to a particular set of ideas that were really about her relationship with others and how much she wanted to share and what were the choices that she was making that felt like they so diverged with wider society. Again and again, I come to guests with a set of assumptions that then fall apart. You know, they'll say something and they don't mean quite what I thought they meant by it. And then I get to learn something from them. You know, Shane Claiborne, honestly, the thing that surprised me about him is how much he talked about the Bible, which is a terrible set of assumptions, but that we have this kind of loose set of cultural associations with people that are, you know, going to Gaza and protesting outside nuclear facilities, that their kind of main motivation and their main source of energy won't be from the Bible or the person of Jesus. That's the kind of cultural story that we've imbibed that is not accurate when it comes to Shane and lots of other people. Yes, just the kind of delight that I have in repeatedly realizing that my way of seeing the world, my preferences, my temperament, my norms are not norms. You know, there's something quite relieving and pleasing about the decentering of myself and people like me. And that makes sense with what we're trying to do here. If you are new to the podcast and you have come because you have listened to a guest, you knew you were going to like, they shared it or someone sent it to you, and you're still here after maybe more episodes than one, you might have had a discombobulating experience. Because most of the content that we consume online and elsewhere is by people that we know we're interested in, that we probably already agree with, and that in some way connects to us, reminds us of ourselves, or feels like they might like us if they met us. The next episode that you heard was someone really different from you, from a different tribe, someone you really disagreed with. You might have felt that discomfort of, oh, this is unusual. Am I actually going to listen to a whole long episode of someone saying things that might make me feel grumpy or awkward or uncomfortable? And we do this project partly because we want to talk to interesting people and really kind of understand how humans work, because humans are always fascinating, and partly because we want to be an antidote to the algorithm. We want to be some physic for the filter bubbles, right? We want to create counter-resistant practices for our echo chambers. Because as Jamila Jamil said in her episode, we are in a situation where we are all being shown the world in very different ways. That actually the idea of having a shared reality now is really, really difficult. She really went into depth about how, the content that you're fed will be precisely tailored to you and might be very, very different even from your partner who's sitting on the sofa next to you, or your friend, and will almost definitely be different from the person in the next house to you and the person that you're standing beside at the school gates or sitting next to at your desk at work. And she experimented with that with a friend who they had some deep differences around Middle East conflict by sending each other what they were seeing and realizing just how different their view of the conflict was because of the images they were seeing and the people that they were trusting and the people that they were listening to. And this effect of seeing the world so differently listening to radically different voices is driving what the sociologist Fatali Mogodon calls mutual radicalization. That our ability to understand and connect, to move towards each other, even people in our own homes and communities, like before you get to the global level, even people that we work with, even people that we're wanting to share social space with, be in a choir with, be in a sports club with, within our own families, our ability to move towards each other, despite our differences and disagreements, rather than be pushed away from each other, it's really going down. We're all being formed by this information environment. And so I really hope that the voices that you've listened to since January, if you've been with us since then, have done a little bit of that antidote, have helped expand your horizons, that you might have even had that kind of pleasurable feeling of, oh, I didn't expect that. That's a really nice surprise. Or that's much more complicated than I thought. Because that's how we learn, and learning actually releases some dopamine in the brain and can actually be really pleasurable and fun. We just have to remember that we want that, because to begin with, it's quite awkward and uncomfortable. And because it can be awkward and uncomfortable, I want to say thank you. Like, thank you for listening to people outside a carefully curated list of those you already agree with. If you've listened to more than one episode, frankly, you will have intentionally been curious. You would have stuck around to hear something that you might not hear anywhere else. And that, I think, demonstrates some steadiness, some openness, some willingness to be part of a wider community and notice how you're changing to tolerate very, very low level discomfort. And I'm really grateful for it. It gives me a lot of hope. I think we shouldn't underestimate how much these practices matter, even though they seem so small, right? Like hitting an episode that might be more challenging rather than one that we know is going to affirm what we already think feels really small. It doesn't feel like it's going to change the world. But these postures and practices are much, much more powerful than we think they are. They matter for our own souls, frankly. I believe they matter for my soul, rooted in my Christian nonviolent tradition. I see this as part of the call of living out my faith. They matter for our ability to not end up lonely and isolated, because if we can't tolerate being around people who make us feel uncomfortable because they disagree with us or they're different from us, well, we'll end up alone, because everyone's different from us in some ways, and no one is ever going to fully agree with us all the time. And I think we see that in the splintering and the isolation that so many people are experiencing. And it matters for our society. It matters for our ability to be citizens. It matters for our ability to solve complex problems, of which the world is not lacking in complex problems. And I wanted to acknowledge that this posture of wanting to get outside our tribes and our filter bubbles and our echo chambers with a kind of curious, adventurous posture to the world and other people is easier in some seasons than others. And we've been feeling that this year. We felt it a few years ago when there was a real intensity around conversations around Black Lives Matter and Me Too, a sense amongst some members of the audience, and this was, again, from really different perspectives, because you come from radically different perspectives, which we love, are kind of like, oh, I'm not sure I actually can tolerate listening to this particular perspective at this moment, or I can't tolerate listening to this, or they don't understand me, or they're just going to tell me off. This sense that actually the natural threat reaction we get around difference and disagreement was higher because of the context. And I think, frankly, since January, we are in one of those seasons where the context has changed a bit. And we know, because some of you have told us, that it's been more difficult to listen to voices that you find challenging or who are not like you, because the political context, and this is obviously partly related to a change in presidency in the US and the way that that just like spills out across the rest of the world, that whatever you think about that, it has led to deep change, turbulence, disruption. And we always feel slightly more anxious around that. And then our anxiety leads us to struggle to find the steadiness required to listen with curiosity. And honestly, sometimes we don't have it. Like, I haven't always had it this year. And that's all right. Like, I just give myself a break. I'm like, actually, I'm just going to go listen to my Golden Age detective novels, and I'm going to be with my close people, and I'm going to not always be in stretch mode. We can't always be in stretch mode. But if we allow ourselves to go, this is too difficult, and I'm too angry, or I'm too fearful, and I'm doing that the dehumanizing move from discomfort to disdain, if I'm allowing myself to feel not just disagreement or difference, but contempt, there's a bit of a flag there. There's a bit of a soul danger there that I am continually having to warn myself against. And I want to end by just inviting those of you who are finding it difficult to listen to people not like yourselves at the moment. One, to give yourself a break to begin with and go find some steadiness, be with people who love you, do something joyful. Everyone needs fun. Fun helps everything. Go on a sunny bike ride. And then when you're ready, just pick an episode, a past episode, or pick a friend, or pick a book that is slightly challenging to you and go looking for something you can agree with. Go looking for something you have in common. We'd love if you want to do this with our back catalogue. If you haven't been here since 2017, which is definitely most of you, go find an episode you haven't yet listened to that you think you might find challenging and comment on YouTube or on our socials. Just say, yep, this bit drove me absolutely bonkers and I think they are really wrong. That's allowed too, very much allowed. And I was surprised by this, or encouraged by this, or I agreed with this. And let's just hold the complexity that both those things can be true. Something that we really talked about with Richard Allen Green. And I want to leave us with this reminder that the line is not between the good guys and the bad guys, right and left, male and female, particular views on any of the very neuralgic issues that we are all continually being required to have opinions on. It's between people who are committed to the full humanity of the other and people who are not, who think winning is more important. And as Richard Allen Green says, those are the people that end up being extremists and doing radical harm in the world. I don't want to do harm in the world. I want to be fully human. I want to be fully alive. I want to be growing up my soul. And I have a hunch that I could learn a lot from you guys and that many of you do too.